Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Who could complain? Cloudy again, but that's okay. I get enough sun in the year, right? All right. Let's see. We got some comments coming in. I got to fix. Tell me if it's a bit wobbly sometimes. I noticed watching the replay yesterday, it looked a little wobbly. The stand has become all loose. I got to fix it. I don't have it's like a weird screwdriver too to fix it, so I gotta figure it out. And if you noticed, I've changed the image today. It's not the same as the one that I had posted earlier because I had meant to get the GameStop image somehow incorporated. So there you go. If you missed it yesterday, there was an image posted from an account that got all kinds of people excited and got GameStop fired up again. Kevin, salut! Bitcoin Deb, good morning. Good morning, Bitcoin Deb. Bitcoin Deb, let me know if it wobbles too much. I trust your opinion on this. I don't know what happened to the wobble. This thing was so hard to move a little while ago when I first got it, the laptop stand that I used to help give a better camera angle, and it didn't work out. It's gotten all loose. So I gotta fix that. I don't like the wobble. Hey, Christine, hope you're doing well. P-Man in the house. Let's get rid of that. Yeah, this wobble thing, see? I gotta get rid of that wobble. We don't like wobbling. Top of the morning, Bitcoiners, Wisteria says. Top of the morning, Wisteria. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. Hello, Lance, who has let us all know. Hello, Bitcoiners. Hello, Lance. Hello, Lance. I'm going to have a pre-sip sip. Bitcoin Deb says, we'll do. Well, there's no will do. It's current do. Do now, in the sense that it should have, if it did wobble, I've already created the conditions by which it wobbled. And the wobbly conditions are always the following. It's when I put one of the comments on, it gives a bit of wobble. So I'll put your will do on and you'll see. See that wobble? Is that distracting? Is it too much of a wobble? Do you guys notice it? I gotta know. Because I gotta get this thing fixed, I gotta tighten it. Good morning, friends. Good morning, Lightning Vend, Sergio. Good morning, amore. Sean recommends. Good morning, all. Good morning, Sean. Hope you're doing well. I'm gonna have a pre-sip sip. Fresh coffee, fresh coffee. Well, let's get right to it. Let's just acknowledge that the sun is up. It's not looking great, right? It's not too bad at all. Bitcoin Deb says it's fine. Okay, Lance. Okay. Yeah, when I watched in replay, it felt a little wobbly, but I guess it's no different than the breeze was in Barbados, right? That gave a bit of a wobbly wobble, but that's okay. We got a sunrise. We got a Bitcoin running. All that's left for us to do is have a coffee and talk about what's new. Let's do it. All right, we have an extra special Moscow time today. The Moscow time supply is really, it's hitting apocalyptic levels, right? It's just really, we cannot tell the difference between humor and the fake news. They're all one and the same now. Fiat in its late, what just happened there? God dang it. Okay, one bad thing just happened. Don't ask me why, but a bunch of my notes did not get taken in. Okay, just give me 1 second here. I got to do a quick move. I don't know why, but none of the images I chose at the very end here made it into my notes for the day. It should only take me a second. I just got to get the right order before I get into Moscow time. That's annoying. That is very annoying. Okay. Let me start with the SEC. No, I'm not going to start with that one. I'm going to start. Oh, no, I will start with that, yeah. This SEC story, Boom, boom. Put those in. Yeah, my notes, as you know, sometimes don't make it. I switched devices and now they're not coming up, so I'll only be a second. I cannot stand. I'm not going to do a freak out. I'm not going to freak out. All right? I'm not going to freak out. I'm just going to go with the flow. We're not going to freak out on Apple today. All right. We're not going to do it. You know, I do it partly as entertainment. I don't really get that upset about stuff. It's true emotion. Like, I really am frustrated with Apple, but I wouldn't normally freak out about something stupid like that. I do it for the entertainment factor. Okay, almost there. I had one more. Oh, yeah. The Whitmer kidnapping. We're going to talk about the Whitmer kidnapping today. The Whitmer kidnapping is one of the funniest stories going, isn't it? Don't we love the Whitmer kidnapping? Isn't it hilarious? Now, where did I have that one? Where did I have that one? We do the Whitmer kidnapping, and then I'll put a couple others, and then we should be ready to go. We should be ready. I thought for sure I had better Whitmer kidnapping. Maybe I didn't. We're almost done, team. Where is that? Oh, there we go. Found it. Whitmer kidnapping. And then I got the good stuff. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Perfect and perfect. Almost done. So leave the leave the way they can. Love the way the Canadians say out. How did I say it? Out, oot, oot. Call it out. Muslim Bitcoiner saying, yeah, I've been following this very closely. Muslim Bitcoiner saying, Japan getting bailed out by the USA and China borrowing trillion yen to stay afloat is a fiat masterpiece, isn't it? Aren't we enjoying this? Muslim Bitcoiner also says it's Moscow time on steroids today. Weeble wobble, but no wobble seen here now. Jason Cattell. Weebles wobble. Happy Tuesday, Bitcoin Breakup Gang. Indeed, I'm not noticing it. Glad everyone's. It happens when I touch the screen a little too much. Daniel says, "Good morning, Bitcoiners. The fiat apocalypse continues to unfold." Didn't I tell you that 2024 was going to be hilarious? That it was going to be this year of like people opening their eyes and being like, "Oh my God, what the hell's going on?" We're here. Enjoy it. Enjoy. Moscow time is going to be proof of it today. Real change, right? Real change. And P-Man says, by the way, the Montreal after party at Pub St. Paul, I shall be there. I shall definitely be there. Hopping over to Natalie's pod after this. She has Bitcoin valedictorian on. Yeah, that guy's pretty neat, huh? We love him. We love that guy. Good morning, Jevi, Daniel says. And Daniel Renault asks, anyone going to be in Montreal on Saturday? Daniel, I think I will be. There's a chance I got to head to Vermont, but we'll see. Weather dependent. Definitely weather dependent. All right. Let me just put two more of these notes in here, and then I'll be done. Or I could probably get... No, I can't, actually. I got to do this last little bit. I hate bouncing around between all my files. The Bill Ackman is good. I probably won't go into all the stuff for that. Shared album. And one more. I'm going to skip a story or two, but that should be okay. There we go. All right. And this guy. Okay, we're ready to go. Sorry about the delay, team. Sorry about the delay, but the ridiculous shouldn't have done it on two devices. The old device crossover problem that I get into. All right, ready. It's time for Moscow time. Moscow time. What's the fakest news I could find? Today is we have some really good ones. I mean, you can't even write it. I couldn't. If I hired Jerry Seinfeld, Eddie Murphy, and I said, can you guys come up with some funny headlines today and that people can't tell the difference if they're real or they're not? There's no way they could come up with stuff of this high quality. All right. I've done it for you. I found the funniest headlines of the day, and they're hilarious. Ready? Forbes. This is a real headline. Trump calls fictional Hannibal Lecter a wonderful man at rare campaign stop during trial. Trump loves Hannibal Lecter, guys. He's basically a cannibal, okay? But he got more. We're not done. There's more. Huh? This is from Mediaite. Huh? Huh? Imagine the huh is just like they still think they're right, okay? It's not, maybe I should look internally and maybe I misunderstood this. Maybe there was some sarcasm over my head. Maybe there was a joke I didn't get. Nah, Mediaite. Huh? Huh? Trump praises Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter, as a wonderful man in an all-time bonkers rally rant. So guess what now? They're going to go with, if you vote for Trump, you're down with cannibals. He loves Hannibal Lecter. We love Hannibal Lecter. Who doesn't love Hannibal Lecter? Right? Independent talking about the same thing, but they didn't mention the Hannibal Lecter in this. This is all about Trump had a huge rally this weekend in New Jersey. Over 100,000 people or something. Some people here. The next headline saying 80,000, but it looks like about 100,000 or something like that came. And at some point he did mention Hannibal Lecter, right? So they've turned that into this fake news story. But there's better, right? Here's what Independent says. Jersey Shore swamped with 80,000 MAGA supporters as Trump gets nasty. Brands Biden a total moron. Former president is packing weekends with campaign events after spending much of the past month in a Manhattan courthouse. Very nice, very nice. Okay, now we got a couple headlines here about some Biden supporters. What are they up to? This comes from the Daily Mail a little while ago. This is the celebrity Eva Longoria endorses Joe Biden and Kamala Harris re-election campaign in Arizona after slamming Donald Trump and Hannibal Lecter. In unrelated news, Eva Longoria and husband Jose Baston are quitting Los Angeles and moving to Spain for the sake of their son as they start shipping belongings while trying to sell their Beverly Hills property for $18.9 million. So vote for Joe Biden, but I'm going to go live over here. So good. So good. Here's some news from Germany. Germany in the running with Canada for the stupidest country in the world. German court rules intelligence agencies can wiretap the AfD as the party is suspected of extremism. Wiretap them. Come on, we suspect they're stupid. They're extremists. We'll get them. Well, that's what's happening in Germany, right? What about neighbor Belgium? Belgium has passed this from the Publica. Belgium has passed a law stating that the government can intervene in cases where prostitutes refuse sexual acts too frequently, right? So if you pay the prostitute to give you a BJ and she says, I don't know, you got some like stuff going on down in your action, I don't want to do it. Right? No. In Belgium, they know where the criminal focus needs to be. They know what attention is required, right? It doesn't matter if there's rapes going on all over. It doesn't matter if there's all kinds of trouble in Belgium. No. Those whorebags who are refusing to suck a dick, they're the fucking problem, all right? They know what they're talking about in Belgium. They have the priorities straight, right? Fiat priorities straight. They go on, pimps may file an official government complaint against their workers if they refuse sex more than 10 times in 6 months. You know, I was just saying the human traffickers just didn't have enough of the law supporting them. So now if you're into human trafficking and your victim refuses to suck a dick, you have options. Finally have options, right? You can appeal to the government. Get those girls sucking. It's perfect. Massachusetts, this is in America, not, they got some bad news in Europe, and America has its own trouble. Massachusetts officially asks residents to lend a helping hand and offer migrants an extra room. And guess what? If some of those migrants were like in Belgium, maybe you'll get that law too. Maybe if you get the person living in your house, maybe they can't refuse after. Maybe get some labor laws on your side, get some pimps working, right? That could be good. Fox talking here about Princeton University. So Fox News saying, Princeton University students end anti-Israel hunger strike due to health concerns, right? They got a little hungry, a little unhealthy from not eating, right? There you go. This one's pretty good. We're in the university sector now, right? We're talking Princeton, right? We got this one from Harvard Business Review. U.S. firefighters. I don't know why Harvard's getting interested in the firefighting, but here you go, right? U.S. firefighters are overwhelmingly white and male. Here's why that needs to change. I mean, if I was in a fire, God forbid I'm saved by too many white people. I mean, if the crew saving me isn't at least mixed, I mean, what was the point, right? I can't prove how awesome we are. It just doesn't make any sense. It just sucks. So this is also from, I think I can't remember where this is from. I forgot to get the source, but it's a headline from Mark Herdsgaard. He wrote it. Racism can kill black people even when a black finger pulls the trigger. Okay, so even if a black finger pulls the trigger, it's probably racism. It's probably racism. Wounded in the biggest mass shooting in modern New Orleans history, African-American activist Deborah Cotton embodied a true crime parable of America's Obama-Trump era. I don't even know what that means. All right, we got more, though. We got more. We got Zelensky stuff now, right? And Zelensky's in the news. So he met with Blinken, our favorite guy, Blinken. He's just a Blinken everywhere in the world, this guy Blinken, right? He's out there trying to negotiate, and he's like, hey, please, please, please. He's Blinken. So Zelensky lauds the U.S. aid package, but he asked Blinken for more air defenses. It's not enough. The $60 billion last week, it's not going to do. It's not going to do, right? It's not going to do. It's not going to do. But in the meantime, we've got this other story here from Martina Bugoslavets, chairman of the Anti-Corruption Center, MEDTA, and she says, where are the fortifications? Kharkov OVA paid millions to fictitious companies. So it turns out that Russia reinvaded northern Ukraine because the local officials pocketed the money. So the $60 billion, it's gone. That's why they need a little extra help, right? We got more now. We got the viral bugs news. We got some bug news, right? So we got a little bug news. What's going on? ABC News reporting that KP.2 is now the dominant COVID variant. Experts say the U.S. may see a summer increase in cases. COVID's back. Yay, COVID. But they've tried COVID and variants with all these code names and stuff. It's not really working that well. So now they're coming up with a new one, right? So we heard about the bird flu that was going on last week and the week before. So it was going to be bird flu, right? And then, they were like, well, we tried bird flu back years ago, and then we had the COVID. Now the dot variants, they're not so good. Omicron was okay as a name, but it didn't quite get people scared enough. But we got a new one, okay? So it's not bird, it's not COVID. The new one is viral bug outbreak fears as camel flu. We got the new one. It's camel flu, guys. There's a camel flu with 35% fatality rate. Kills one and infects two more. Scroll down to find out why camel flu could spark the world's next pandemic, plus how to protect yourself from the bug. I just saw a camel last week. I was in Qatar and I was like, look at that camel. I took a picture. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Do I have a 30% chance of dying from 35% fatality rate? Camel flu. Camel flu. All right, we got camel flu. Perfect. So that was our Moscow time for the day. That's the fakest news I can find. It was pretty fake today. It's pretty good and fake. All right, so all kinds of stuff going on yesterday. This is breaking news, by the way. The Tornado Cash developer Alexei Pertsev found guilty of money laundering. So that's this morning. So Tornado Cash guy is a money launderer. And we've also got this GameStop story going on today. So yesterday, GameStop stock gains 110%, and it gets halted for volatility after the Roaring Kitty post. So Roaring Kitty hadn't been online since 2021. And then yesterday, posted an image which was, more or less, I'll show you the image. It's a cool image. You probably saw it all over the place, all over the internet yesterday. It was this one, right? It was sitting back, not paying attention, and then getting into it and moving forward just a little. And that's what caused the, sorry, Nolan, you have H1N1. Yeah, I had H1N1. The swine flu gets no love. Where's the swine flu? What happened? Come on, they got to go back to swine flu. Muslim Bitcoin are bringing up swine flu, right? But camel's got a ring to it, right? And they can kind of blame Muslims for it. They can put a bit of Muslim stuff in there too, right? There's a little bit of Muslim-y business with the camels. It's perfect. Just perfect. So we got the camel flu. I like camel flu. It's new. We've heard swine, bird doesn't have traction. Let's go with camels for a while. Entertaining, and you got to change the channel. You got to mix it up. We got the short attention spans, right? In late fiat, so we got the short attention spans. We need to change the animals real quick. So camel. I wonder how they came up with the camel flu one. I wonder how they engineered that one. I know with the bats, they had to go into the caves and get the bat shit all organized. They had to bring the bat shit out, and they had to make the thing out of the bat shit. What do they do with the camels? Is it camel shit? I don't know. I don't know how they made the camel flu. We'll find out one day. Maybe we'll find out one day. But let's get back into our theme. So the theme today is kind of what I mentioned a couple years ago when we first started, that we would be, by 2024, having these amazing revelations, and people would be opening their eyes all the time, just like the GameStop guy. That's how I made today's image. That was what I'm going for here. But it's really more about the fear-backed dollar, and the idea here that as people open up their eyes, it's not so much that they'll understand that the dollar is backed by fear. It's more that they'll have an appropriate orientation about what they should be afraid of, where the danger is actually coming from. And for a long time, of course, patriotism or brainwashing or whatever it was had most Americans believe, and most people around the world believe, that the government was there to help them. And that was kind of an infantile impression that a lot of Bitcoiners knew wasn't true. Once you get into this idea of money being a kind of hypnotic tool that really helps define people's fears and wants, and therefore is able to create a certain amount of definition of reality around those people. That's kind of what Bitcoiners recognized happened to people who were so down the US dollar road that they had sort of forgotten that reality existed beyond the US dollar and beyond the propaganda that backs it, and beyond the war machine that backs it, and beyond all these things. They thought that the fears and wants that were in front of them were universal and everyone shared them. Well, that isn't true. Once you start seeing the contrast of the dollar against Bitcoin, it becomes obvious that those fears are induced, fake, not real, and that the true danger of the thing that you should be afraid of is actually coming from the source of the propaganda. It's the people telling you what to be afraid of that you should be afraid of, not the things they're telling you to be afraid of, right? So it's a big change. And here on the Breakup, we've been talking about that for a while. And we predicted by now this would be the year where more and more people woke up to this reality. More and more people woke up to the reality that the thing you ought to be afraid of is not a regulator getting it wrong. It's a regulator getting it right. Because when the regulator gets it right, it means they've appropriately locked in the different fear factors in this case. So it's something Bitcoiners have understood for a while, that the US dollar was used regularly, as well as regulators regularly, to misappropriate, let's say, or misdirect in order to define where the source of fear is coming from. But now that we see developers getting arrested by the government, now that we see all these things that Bitcoiners have had a front row seat to, right? Bitcoiners have had very little adjustment in their worldview because we understood where the danger came from the beginning. We understood who to be afraid of, what to be afraid of. And that's really the difference here, is that Bitcoiners through COVID were able to not get so confused about what was going on. They were able to traverse that fog of war that descended on everyone, the cloak of the fog of war that came down in 2020. Bitcoiners were able to navigate through that darkness, through those clouds, through that fog, because they had a worldview from the beginning. They knew in which direction they were headed. They knew what they were running from. They knew what to be afraid of in an appropriate way, in an accurate way. And because they were more accurate about this stuff, there was less adjustment required for Bitcoiners to get through COVID, just like there's less adjustment required now as we see the fiat apocalypse take place all around us. A big part of the fiat apocalypse is that people are understanding where the risks are coming from. Bitcoiners have already understood that. Less adjustment. That's why we can laugh about it. That's why we're not so worried about what the revelations we're coming up with and what we're learning. That's why we're not so childlike about it. But just look at what's happening, right? Yesterday, you've got this Tornado Cash guy getting in trouble. Here's another one where you've got Coinbase arguing with the SEC. So this happened yesterday, right? So this is from Paul Greywall, who is the legal guy in charge of what's going on over at Coinbase. Here he says, in a brief to avoid dismissal of its case against Deadbox with prejudice, SEC Gov includes a remarkable admission that it did not follow its own typical Wells process when it refused to tell us what assets would be charged as securities. The Wells process is designed to aid the charging decision for a specific potential defendant. The SEC staff typically provides a thorough explanation of the evidence it would use to prove potential changes against a particular person, charges against a particular person or entity. We received no thorough explanation of the evidence of what assets supposedly gave rise to securities transactions. We weren't told what assets were at issue at all. Why would the government not follow its typical process in our case? And what does this say about its claims? So you can hear that already, right? You have a lot of people who have for a long time said, well, the SEC is there for our protection. It's there to help us, right? It's there to help us. What we have understood for a long time now, especially from the Bitcoin side of it, is that the SEC is it's a criminal organization. They're not interested in saving anybody. They're interested in saving whatever corrupt tentacles have entered their body. And that's about it, right? And Beautyon has a really good breakdown of it. And he's here contrasting even the stupid Bitcoiners who continue to say, like, well, you know, the Bitcoiners that are sitting there saying, oh, get the SEC against the crypto people, right? This is just absolutely brain dead, right? Now, I'm not a big lover of crypto, but crypto is like baseball cards. Do I have a big problem with people collecting baseball cards? Crypto is the same level as collectibles. It's the same to me. All of the industry of crypto is like collectibles, right? Do I have a huge problem with collectibles? Not really. I don't really care. It doesn't inform my worldview. Bitcoiners should have had a lot of confidence a long time ago in understanding that all of crypto, from the second coin on, from Ethereum on, these are collectibles. They are as informative about someone's worldview as baseball cards are or other things like that are. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is a worldview forming, worldview supporting technology that allows you to really see what's going on. Now, I don't care too much about crypto, but I've never been one of those Bitcoiners saying, oh, I hope the SEC shuts down Vitalik and the crypto people. I just don't care. I've always believed that crypto can actually corrupt Wall Street to the extent that, imagine, Wall Street for so long was where the best and brightest went. It's where the smartest people went to be financial engineers. You know how we stop that? That's one of the things Bitcoin needs to change in the world. We need the richest people to go back to being farmers and builders and normal jobs, right? Focus on your job, be good at it, and make saving money easy so you can focus on the hard part, which is being good at what you do. And so Bitcoin is really about reorienting where the best and brightest go in our generation. In the fiat world, of course, the best and brightest went into financial engineering. Of course, my plan has always been to deliver them the fakest financial engineering they can to take away the mystique about it being the place where the smartest people go. You know how we do that? We give them crypto. Let them all brag about how smart they are. I'm into crypto. Let it happen. There's no reason to change it. Ethereum isn't a big enough scam yet. It has to be so big that it takes down all of Wall Street. It has a great potential. Ethereum has a great potential. One day in the future, when any trader tries to brag about being in Ethereum, it's going to look so stupid. They're going to show exactly who they are, that you're going to actually start changing what people want and desire and what's prestigious and what isn't. We had an entire generation of people being able to say, oh, I'm a derivatives trader, or something like that. It was silly to make that the most prestigious job of a generation, or natural given where we came from. But here we are trying to change that, right? So this idea that the SEC somehow needs to go and do its job effectively was always a stupid idea for Bitcoiners. We should have always let crypto just take over naturally in Wall Street and sink it eventually, right? Eventually sink it, eventually take away the prestige, take away what it is, what it represents. So that's just one way of looking at it. I know there's other ways to look at it. That's just the way I've always thought was the appropriate use of Ethereum to continue to grow the scam. And if Ethereum can't handle it, throw a new one in there, let it keep expanding, right? Let it expand so that eventually when it detonates, I think most Bitcoiners are safe from it. you'll see that whole thing come down and they'll have to run for refuge. Where? You know where they'll go, right? There's only one place to go. There's only one real place for them to head eventually. So eventually you absorb it all, but you let it grow to the extent that it can wipe out the fiat world. And I think that's ultimately the goal of crypto. And it could be pretty interesting, right? And there's a lot of fun stuff and there's a lot of real stuff that can happen between now and then. So it's not all 100% totally a scam. I wouldn't get involved in it. It's too complicated, and too hard to keep up and too inside baseball and too scammy. But nevertheless, it's important, right? So this idea that the SEC is there to help people, even Bitcoiners thinking that the SEC needed to be unleashed to help protect investors from crypto is one of the stupidest ideas that Bitcoiners have ever come up with. And luckily, not all Bitcoiners think that way. Beauty on saying here, it would be a good idea for Bitcoiners to buy a map and study what jurisdiction means. Whenever you hear an American say things are bad in Bitcoin, several things are inevitably true. They think America and its SEC are the only powers on earth. They refuse to name the enemy that causes their fear, the state. Now, indeed, that's the important part. That's why I'm quoting Beauty on here. He said what was on my mind this morning, which was, and the prediction we've made here on the breakup, that people are starting to perceive where the real danger comes from. It comes from inside. It comes from inside the state. And that is something we've all known here. You guys are smart. You're well aware. That's why we join and gather together every morning here for the breakup. We're all aware of this. But we predicted a year ago that we would see this become widely understood by more and more Americans. And it's becoming true, right? We're seeing more and more people say, they really are the criminals. It really is a type of organized crime situation. And that's what I'm seeing. I only see organized crime now when I look at government. I think you should RICO almost every one of these cases, because all these emails going through the prosecutors after Trump and the SEC and where's that money coming from, it all looks like organized crime. All of it looks like organized crime, right? RICO being, of course, the organized crime provisions where you can get into the communications using federal communications or any other communications. I think it comes from the U.S. Postal Service originally, but that's where the federal communications part comes from. So looking at this stuff and seeing how it's organized is pretty interesting, and you can start to tell that this looks exactly like a criminal organization. So Beauty On says, they refuse to name the enemy that causes their fear, the state. People like this can never solve problems because they're psychologically incapable of imagining a world where their beloved state is smaller. These people were never truly aligned with Bitcoin's aims. They think the purpose of Bitcoin is decentralization. It is not. The purpose of Bitcoin is replacing fiat, not to act as a perfect expression of database software problem. And Bitcoin has no aims. It is not a person. People have aims. If your aim is X, it's up to you to make it so. If you refuse to face reality, other people who do will, and you'll be drowned out. And even if Bitcoin was perfect in their standards, it would be corrosive to the power of the state, and distribution and dissemination of it into the economy would remain a problem. App stores. Or do these delusional people believe the state will throw its hands up and walk away because it's distributed? You'll still be an enemy of the state and a target, even with a perfect Bitcoin. Silly little boy. The level of delusion, infantilism, brainwashing, and just plain silliness on constant display is shocking and perplexing. If it were not for the bright future coming, it would be depressing. You, the observers, can choose to listen to the negative Bitcoin cult members and wallow in the pool of misery they sit in and stew in what they want and drag you all down into. So I won't go too much on what's going on problematically with the Bitcoiners here. What I mean to say is, even amongst Bitcoiners, but more importantly, amongst the general American population, we're understanding that the true danger is coming from the state. And so the KYC is a negative development for sure. Yeah, it is definitely a negative development. But again, I don't think we solve KYC first. So the thing about, the whole expression, what's the definition or the characteristics of money and all this exercise, I don't pay too much attention to it. But remember, it's a store of value, it's a medium of exchange, and it's a unit of account, right? So these three important pillars. So one of the things that I've come to understand over time is that it's kind of a quantum problem. It's an observer. The observer is the most important person when defining this, because people will say, well, what has to come first in Bitcoin, right? Well, what has to come first in Bitcoin is that rich people, right? Rich people see it as a store of value. If rich people see it as a store of value because they're trying to de-risk the government, it doesn't matter what people with the remittances and all that think. They don't have money to save. They don't have store of value. They just have medium of exchange. So I know a lot of people have wanted to go medium of exchange first in Bitcoin and believe that was the way to get there. Not exactly. To me, the way to get there is unit of account and energy, right? That will decouple energy from the state. If the energy companies don't want to measure wealth or the energy markets, let's say, measure the energy markets in US dollar anymore because it's changing too quickly, it's got inflation, it's becoming useless as a measuring stick, they'll use Bitcoin because it's more stable, more predictable. And if they use Bitcoin as a measuring stick for the energy companies as a unit of account, it's game over. That's truly is hyper-Bitcoinization to me. And once that happens, then you see the result of it being a unit of account would be that wealthy people also start measuring their wealth in it. So it's a store of value. And from there, we move towards unit of exchange. So, but of course, it is a quantum issue. The observer matters in defining which of these elements is a priority and which goes first. But the concept, the primordial concept here being that the Bitcoiners have been able to understand before anyone that it's a psychological engine, having a psychological anchor in order to measure the world as this unit of account is one of the most important things we can do, because that's what's going to perpetuate the economy. That's what's going to make the psychological engine healthy. The psychological engine that we've been living with until now has been trust in the state, because that's what made the flywheel go around, right? The psychological engine of fiat is that the government can be trusted, but we understand that can't be true, which means fiat has a limit. It has a finish line. It has a time at which we can't keep using it. We've reached that time now, and not everyone understands it yet, but we're starting to understand it at scale because of all the corruption. Again, it's one of the best things we could have hoped for with Joe Biden as president, because he's so laughably stupid, because he's so corrupted, because he's such a failure. We're able to perceive where the risks are coming from. Just look at the story with his the diary. This is now true. It's confirmed yesterday that the Ashley Biden diary is 100% true. Now, the stuff in it is super gross. We've known for a long time it was real, but now it's confirmed even by Snopes. They took away the fact check. Looks like he was showering naked with his teenage daughter. I mean, that's what happened. So all this stuff about Biden just being as absolutely disgusting and creepy as he is starting to come out. We're starting to understand that more. We're starting to understand that this man is not just a nice grandfather. He's the other side of that equation, right? He is the guy who has a grandchild he won't acknowledge because Hunter had it with the stripper. So he's got the stripper grandchild that he won't even say is there. He doesn't count this grandchild. And this is the guy the fake news tried to tell you was, we're trying to bring back the morality to the job, which is perfect. They completely sold themselves out by doing this. Victor David Hansen, who is kind of a American philosopher, let's say, he's been a professor for a long time at Stanford, says, has America finally had it with Joe Biden? Joe Biden's personal approval rating is at historic lows. Almost all his policies do not pull 50%. He is behind Trump in almost all the swing states. And now he lies serially, even to sympathetic interviewers. In short, finally, Biden has been exposed for what he always was and represented. Remember what I told you I was hoping for in 2024? That I wanted to watch Biden rot. I wanted to watch him rot live, because we need to destroy this idea that the president is the leader of the free world. Trump did a pretty good job at destroying the concept of the president of the United States as the leader of the free world, just because people didn't listen to him and people created all this issue. And it showed explicitly that we did not have civilian control of the US military, that Donald Trump was not in control of the country while he was president at all, right? He couldn't. You know how easy it would be for a real US president with the real toolbox that the president is supposed to have to close the US border in Mexico? Not hard. Why couldn't he do it? Well, the answer is he wasn't in charge. It took Trump, which is what I hoped for when he was elected. It took Trump to expose just how corrupted the system was. And he exposed it, unfortunately, by showing how weak he was as president. Not him personally, but the job he inherited, the job they let him have, showed just how weak the presidency had become, just how subordinate to other institutions it really was. Now, Joe Biden is the perfect expression of that. He's the perfect follow-up president to Donald Trump. And again, why it was the best move for Bitcoin to have this accelerationist failure as our president, right? Because it's the same physical phenomena. It's physics that nature abhors a vacuum. And when you show there is a real power vacuum, you start to get people that are able to fill in the blanks and understand what happened, right? So he goes on, Victor David Hansen, Senator and Vice President Joe Biden was always sort of a buffoon. He is by nature a grandstander who handsomely profited from his office while posing as good old Joe from Scranton. He is a blowhard meddler, one who proverbially has been on the wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades. From dissenting on the bin Laden raid to his trisection of the Iraq scheme. He is a fabulist who believes that the more animated he misleads and slurs semi-fascists, fat, lying dog-faced pony soldier, chumps, dregs of society, the more likely he is to get away with it. He is a confessed plagiarist. He has also invented much of his biography, from would-be star college scholarship athlete and brilliant law student to semi-truck driver, and jailed civil rights activist. His uncle, who we are instructed was eaten by cannibals. Joe assures us that he was the first in his family to go to college. And he is a racist and a repertory of racial taunts and smears unrivaled among modern politicians. Junkie, boy, you ain't black, the first mainstream African-American who's articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. That's what he said about Obama, that he was articulate and bright and clean. Put y'all back in chains, the corn pop and golden leg hair sagas, the racial jungle memes, the strange brag about Delaware as a slave state. You don't know my state. My state was a slave state. My state is a border state. And his encomia for the old Democratic racists of the Senate, from former Klansman Robert Byrd, Biden's self-described mentor and guide, to segregationist James Eastland, never called me boy. So Bill Ackman commenting on this, saying, this is very harsh critique of POTUS Biden, which appears to be largely true at first glance. Although I'm not familiar with all the facts. It would be helpful for a POTUS Biden supporter to write the counterpoint if there are facts alleged here that are not true. Let's have an open discussion. Of course, this will never happen, right? But now that Biden has all this new stuff coming out and more people are opening up their eyes, he's got to defend himself even more. So it's just going to get funnier. It's going to get funny because it looks like the news is turning on him finally. It looks like people are finally turning on him because it's just too much. It's too funny. And people can't resist hearing about all these things. So they're going to keep doing it, right? So it's getting funnier and funnier. And we're seeing more and more of this stuff. But importantly, what I think it helps us do is reorient where we understand our fears ought to come from. And there's another story here that I think is just perfect about this. And it comes from Schellenberger today. So Schellenberger talking again about, sort of what we've been talking about all morning, where the risks are coming from, what we should be afraid of, what's appropriate to be afraid of. And here he does a long piece on the UK admitting that it is involved in weaponizing the Army's information warfare. So in 2021, UK government said it had not weaponized the Army's information warfare unit, the 77th Brigade, against the British people, but it had, thus it lied. Now, newly released and never before reported documents show that the UK government mislabeled accurate information as malinformation and sent defamatory misinformation to the US government. How did the Army get away with it? According to a new whistleblower from the 77th Brigade, it was by having soldiers pretend that the British citizens upon whom they were spying could perhaps be foreigners. Most disturbing of all, newly obtained minutes from the UK government's disinformation board show that senior UK officials considered embedding civil servants in social media companies. Was that also the intention of the Biden administration's near identical named Disinformation Governance Board of the Department of Homeland Security? And they go into these stories about the PSYOPs. UK government used Army PSYOPs division to monitor citizens and then lied about it. So this was a breaking story that Schellenberger had yesterday. But he also brings up as an example this one in Canada that I've told you guys about a million times, which is just hilarious. If you haven't heard about this one before, it's amazing. So he brings up this headline: military leaders saw pandemic as unique opportunity to test propaganda techniques on Canadians, Forces report says. So what we found out, and this is true, this happened in Canada when it first happened, when COVID first happened in Canada, March 2020. What they ended up doing in Nova Scotia. So if you see the map of Canada, it's on the extreme Atlantic coast. It's part of New Britain. You got New England in the United States, and then Canada's version of New England, the Maritime provinces. Nova Scotia, New Scotland being a big part of that for Canada. Only about 1 million people live there. Very beautiful place, very agrarian, lots of apple orchards, lots of farms, fishing. It's where you get all the lobsters. It's a gorgeous place, right? So, and a very innocent place. It's a bunch of old white Canadians. They've never had any immigration there. Everybody moves out. So it's weirdly a source country for Canadian immigration. If you go out west, it's filled with these East Coasters that went out there for opportunity. It's a very poor part of Canada, and nobody really cares about going there except for summer vacation to go eat all the good food and enjoy some of the beaches, do some sailing, go check out the farms. Gorgeous place. Unfortunately, very mismanaged and filled with really dumb people. I gotta say it, really stupid people, right? It's the one place in Canada where Justin Trudeau is still doing sort of okay, right? Just to give you a sense of how dumb these people are. I love them, but they're actually semi-retarded, unfortunately. So this is but it might not be their fault in a sense. This is what the Canadian government did to them during COVID. Imagine this. So COVID starts, and what they end up doing to make sure that people comply, they run an experiment. They start running news that because people have been staying in their homes, that the nature is starting to encroach on the small towns and cities that are around there. It's very rural, right? There's no big cities. Halifax is the biggest, but it's a small town. So the news starts leaking the story that there's the nature is coming back, right? So there's wolves and the wild animals are getting confidence because everyone's been locked inside. And not only did they say that, so they leaked this story about the wolves now coming closer to civilized parts of Nova Scotia and coming closer to towns and villages. They actually start playing sounds of wolves from speakers in the forest. All of these techniques they had learned in Afghanistan. They had done similar things during the Afghan war. So they're redeploying tactics they'd learned in Afghanistan in Canada. Now they got caught and they tried to pretend, oh, it was a rogue agent. It was a rogue agent. Not true, right? Not true. This was a coordinated effort. The Canadian military did a psyop on the people in Nova Scotia, the most pitiful, stupidest people in the country. They ran this experiment on them. And I mean, innocent, dumb country people and I'm a country person, right? But I can admit what country people can be like. They can be innocent. City people can be stupider for different reasons, i.e. thinking the government is on your side. That's a typical stupidity of an urbanite. But country people have their own, stupidities. And in Canada, because it's filled with stupid people, it's just worse. So imagine they actually, Canadistan, right? So they actually ran this program in Canada. And, most Canadians are still there saying, oh, our government is there to help us. Schellenberger saying more evidence that COVID censorship was part of a broader Five Eyes military psyop. Civilian leaders of our nations must hold these rogue officials to account, or we are no longer a democracy. So Schellenberger, again, loses the plot here. We're not trying to preserve democracy, guys. It's over. It's been over for a long time. We live nothing in anything like a democracy, okay? And it hasn't been that way, at least since Kennedy was killed. Who knows from before that? Things get really murky. It might be since World War I. It could even be since before that. We just don't know, right? History is faker than the news. So at what point did we really lose control? At what point was the military truly not civilian? For me personally, I go with JFK. It could be sooner. I think Eisenhower had a handle on it just based on the way he spoke about things and the way he described things and who he was as a person who understood the military. He understood the threat came from the military, right? He understood that. And so to me, that's an appropriate fork in the road for America. So I think that's what happened, but I could be wrong, but that's just what I use for shorthand. So again, we're starting to understand where the risks come from, and we're starting to understand this at scale. And that revelation is enough to push us towards hyper-Bitcoinization. It's enough for us to understand where we're headed, right? So Schellenberg goes on, military commanders believe they didn't need to get approval from higher authorities to develop and proceed with their plan. Retired Major General Daniel Gosselin, who was brought in to investigate the scheme, concluded in his report. The propaganda plan was developed and put in place in April 2020, even though the Canadian forces had already acknowledged that information operations and targeting policies and doctrines are aimed at adversaries and have limited application in a domestic concept. Didn't matter. They did it, right? They did it. So Lance saying here 1913 could be, it could be 1913. I mean, it could be Lance. Yeah, sure. I mean, for again, because we don't understand history, I accept that number, but I think we can still focus on the Kennedy assassination as an important inflection point of this, right? Or an important failure to correct what might have started in 1913, but at least we can track it back to that point. So again, we're understanding when you see what's going on with the Tornado Cash guy, when you see what's going on with the SEC, when you see what's going on with the military, when you see what's going on with the bankers, when you see what's going on with censorship in America, with what about the Gretchen Whitmer case, right? So the Gretchen Whitmer case. Gretchen Whitmer it was a scam, right? She was actually arrested, or it was a fake kidnapping. The US government induced low IQ, stupid people into doing it to, corrupt them. It would never have been their idea. We saw it happen in Canada after 9/11. I guess they were called the Toronto 18. And what that was they found a bunch of stupid Muslim people in Canada, and they tricked them into trying to plan a terrorist attack in order to catch them, right? But they didn't have the mental capacity to plan this thing. It was all planned by the RCMP. And they got these stupid dupes to say, let's do it, right? And then they said, look how guilty they are. We caught them. It was never their idea. It was always the idea of the Canadian military. And that has been prosecuted, and it's gone through the courts, and we have a sense of it, right? So we're getting a better sense of just how this business works. And so now that we're here, now that Bitcoiners are understanding, right, and that people are waking up at scale with the Gretchen Whitmer and now the case against the media organizations with the Hunter Biden laptop and now the Ashley Biden diary, we're starting to understand the organized crime nature of all of this stuff. And more people, exactly as Beauty On has underlined here, are understanding what they should be afraid of and where the danger is coming from, and that it is actually coming from the state. It's the demon-backed dollar, right? We've got this idea, and people are waking up to it, just like the GameStop image suggests. Like, people are starting to understand what's at play here. That the thing they thought was giving them peace of mind was actually the thing creating the fears that was giving all the instability in the first place. So we're starting to perceive it much better, and because we're perceiving it much better, we can deal with it much better. And it's the reason why we had Vivek on the PBD podcast yesterday saying straight up, right? And we're starting to say this out loud now. A lot of people who didn't vote for Trump in 2020 will vote against the weaponization of the justice this November. A landslide is not out of reach. Indeed, everything we've seen from the corruption going into the Donald Trump prosecutions, Donald Trump has become a proxy to understand just how dangerous the state is. Look at what he's suffering at the hands of the state. Now, this is ready for all of us if this continues, and that's becoming widely known around America. When I see Trump on trial, I see myself on trial. Remember what Trump said 2 years ago, 3 years ago? They have to come through me. All that's stopping them from coming at you is me. He was saying that on the 2020 campaign all the time. It sounded grandiose and bombastic at the time. I thought it was true, but it didn't quite catch, and that was different. Now it's starting to catch. They saw what they did to him. They've seen all of these bullshit cases. They've seen all of the staged lawfare, and Americans are waking up to this idea. Now you can see the broken brains don't understand it. CNN, they had this one lady on there. I just don't get why people think that Trump is less dangerous for democracy than Joe Biden, because they actually read a poll out there that said Joe Biden is more dangerous for democracy. And even Democrats perceive this, right? That there was a danger of Joe Biden for democracy that Trump did not pose. And these legal experts are sitting there like, what? They have to laugh because they can't figure it out. Of course, their answer is the same old, well, they're just stupid. It's a bunch of stupid people, right? But they just don't understand that they don't have any bearings about them for what is risky and dangerous in the world. They cannot perceive the actual source of danger. They still think the government is there to help them. It's like the concept is similar to children who don't understand that their parents lie to them. It's a big realization for kids when they realize the Santa Claus thing. And it's an important one, right? When kids realize that, my parents lie to me, right? That's a big psychological change and an important one, and one that kids have to learn, right? They have to learn that their parents lie regularly all the time in order to keep things moving smoothly. And it's not to destroy trust. It's just to understand that your parents have to manipulate you because that's the way the world works, right? Everyone's manipulating everyone. And so the frame here is that just like a child has to wake up and realize that everybody in the world lies, everybody in the world has an angle, everyone in the world is looking to get their thing solved and their problem solved, and will do so with white lies and whatever, right? But the idea here being that the children, right, wake up and understand that there's lying going on. And from there, you're able to perceive a little more about what is true and what isn't. Now, there is a lot of truth going on all the time as well, right? I'm not sitting there saying that I lie to my children as a hobby, right? I'm not lying to them for the sake of lying to them. There's reasons why you do it, and they all make sense, and we all know what they are. So you go through this and you start to perceive that lying is an important, realizing this happens is an important part of establishing a healthier version of reality for yourself. And so that's the important part, right? When we see the whole don't trust, verify meme, that's the important meme here. The don't trust, verify meme that Bitcoiners have been propagating through the world is one of the most important memes we can possibly push forward, right? Don't trust, verify is something that has to reach scale. It has to reach scale in our interpretation of election systems. It has to reach scale in our interpretation of the entire structure of government and media and markets and money and banks. But we're nowhere near that. But the start is there. We're starting to understand that we should not blindly trust them. Now, Bitcoiners have understood this for a long time, but it's starting to become at scale. Most people in America are realizing this. And when Vivek here says that we can start talking landslide for Trump, what we're really talking about is a landslide of people understanding that the government is the source of most of our risks, the source of most of the danger, the source of most of the mental health problems we see in our society. It's the gaslighting, it's the lying, and double down on lying and triple down on lying and everything that we see. So the good news is people are waking up and it's happening at scale. It's exactly what I told you was going to happen a year ago, 2 years ago, and we're on schedule, right? Now, we're going to talk about some of the AI stuff that's relevant here too, right? I think this is only going to get better. When you saw everything that we saw yesterday from the Chat GPT announcement, and you finally saw just how conversational the AI is getting, you can start to see that my other prediction that Americans are going to have their own personal AI near them all the time in order to help them navigate this stuff, because that's the one exception. I think you're going to be able to get your own trained AI, which will almost be like a child to you, but that AI will have not exactly a parent-child relationship. It will be a child at once. So if you read my science fiction stories, I've been predicting this for almost 10 years, that AI was not going to be a robot or anything like that. It was going to be at once a child, because I understood the training models at the time, that it would be, and that the relationship, the trust building would be from training it yourself, but that it would have this other role. So like a child at once, but also like a guide that can help you perceive, judge what's a lie, help you navigate the lies, help you navigate the fog of war. So I continue to believe that's true. What I saw yesterday from the Chat GPT announcement underlines exactly what I believed was going to happen with AI, and that we're there, and that it'll be one of the ultimate weapons we have against any of this fake news. And that indeed it will be one of the big, one of the things that will help drive hyper-Bitcoinization, because the ability to scam and lie in the way that fiat has relied on for so long will be limited, and it just won't be able to achieve that kind of scale. So there you go. All right, that's what we got for today. Let's see what the folks are saying in the comments, right? At what point do the swamp need? Yeah, I think it's already done, Jose. Honestly, I think it's already done. I think they made a deal already. I think Trump's already made a deal. I think Trump got the job. That's what I'm seeing. We'll know if Trump says anything about Ukraine in the next week or so, we got to help Ukraine. He made a deal. I trust him to make a good deal. I do. Maybe they'll reveal that Biden has been dead for a year and that we'll have all been seeing deepfakes. What's going on here? Yeah, you know what's funny? I don't understand why they had to make the robots walk exactly like him. When you see these robots going around, they walk the same. Trump landslide, Danielle. Yeah, it's looking like Trump landslide. It's looking like it. Yeah. Sergio says hubristic city folk. That's what it is. Yeah, the hubristic city folk. Jose says JFK was a straight up coup. That's what I'm seeing. Yeah. I'm not a lawyer, but isn't that entrapment? Yeah, of course it was, Jose. Yes, it was, but they never got in trouble for it. They simply never, ever got in trouble for it. Never, ever, ever. You know? Listen to Paul Tarantino's Last Standing Currency on Cedric Youngleman's podcast. Very much in line with Nolan's worldview. Yeah, I'll check that out. I'll check that out. Kevin says dexes are a positive development. Yeah, I've always liked the experimenting on the shitcoins. It's always been the right place to experiment. Due to infighting, more Dr. Seuss edition of truly dumbing it down for the sludge people, eh? Yeah. What's this? I got amazing fake news here. I missed this. I bet there's research showing cicadas don't get the flu, so you should just eat the bugs. So good. Having had COVID-16 and then COVID-19 3 times, I wouldn't discount the possibility that they create a similar biological agent that has a 35% fatality rate. Yikes. Let's not talk about that. All right, team. That's all I got for today. I hope you're doing well. I hope you have a great day. Shut these down. Oh, what did I just do? Unplug. All right. Let me see. I believe Sluggo says, hold on. Muslim Bitcoiner, is there any point of voting at all in this next election? When did voting go out of style? Yeah, there's always a point to vote in the elections. I'm not a anti-voter. They're scammy, but it's still a fun thing to participate in, and worthwhile. Sluggo 123. I believe landslide when I see it, not a secondary. I agree with you, Sluggo. The cheating is so strong. Jason, Nolan, do you ever get the St. Viateur bagels since you're in Montreal right now? A favorite spot for my family when we're in Montreal. Yeah, I sure do, Jason. I'm a big fan of bagels. There's a few other places that are good. I figured out the bagel order, by the way. As someone who lived in New York, I actually have the key insight into the bagel hierarchy. The greatest bagel in the world, right? There's an order. The greatest bagel in the world is a fresh out of the oven. Fresh. It's got like 25 minutes. Montreal bagel. After that, they have to be toasted. They can't be eaten fresh, right? So a fresh out of the oven Montreal bagel can be eaten straight like that without toasting. The normal Montreal St. Viateur bagel that you'll buy in a grocery store or whatever, even if it's the same day, even if it's been packaged already and it's only been there for a few hours, that bagel must be toasted. So this very unique subsection of bagels is the best. The Montreal fresh out of the hot oven, right when you go to the wood fire ovens and you get it right out, that's the best bagel in the world. But the generic Montreal bagel in the grocery store loses to the New York bagel. The New York bagel stays fresh and you don't need to toast it for like 2 days. And that makes it just an amazing thing. So we like them both, but that's my guess on all of this. All right, I got a crying kid, so peace.